How the devil. So it's been a little while since I did a What I'm Seeing. As you can probably deduce from the name of this episode, it's a forecast overview of Phase 3. I don't tend to like to offer too much of an opinion on game changes or most things until I've tried them out and at least let them bed in. However, predictions can be quite fun. I'm only going to be pulling out some of the key stuff, so before we start, grab a brew and your slippers and let's lock and load. Firstly, the footage in the background is some generic gameplay eye candy, note special. Now I've spent quite a while dragging through the interviews and early reveal footage. There is some conflicting information on some subjects, as well as conflicting opinions, but I'll be doing my best with what I currently have. This, as always, is largely subject to change, and I expect some heavy balancing in the not too distant future. I'm also going to cover topics in a rapid fire way so that we aren't here forever, or at least before Phase 3 lands. Okay, so now that's out of the way. Changes to the jump point landing positions, closer to the FOB that is. Depending on how close to the FOB the new jump spots are, it should make it easier to respond to gamma related backcaps as well as normal backcaps, putting a little more pressure on the aggressor and making it viable to go to the FOB rather than home. It also makes the cap crew even more important for the backcapping ships and style of play. I think it's good. A lot of players in the past have complained about the backcap mechanic, and I acknowledge it can be quite difficult to respond to a seasoned backcapper if you don't know how the technique works. I think this change could possibly be a subtle buff to dealing with this as well as speeding the game up. Obviously this will also help backcapping ships as they rotate out of your home base and back to the FOB, but hey, you can't have it too easy. I do kind of like that though. It makes it a little harder for them to get in, but it doesn't keep punishing them after they start rolling. Home jump is now dropping you in the middle of the base. That's freaking great. The number of times I've had to dance around stuck outside my home base out of fear of landing in the middle of an attacking force and getting my teeth kicked in, or the number of times I've wanted to bash my face on my desk while waiting for my slow-ass lumbering heavy to turn around and truck its way into the bubble for upgrades. Must remember to breathe. It's always felt like an unfair advantage to lighter ships, but now it should be more balanced. It also means it's going to be a hell of a lot easier to pull off the levy beacon drop, jump home, upgrade and jump back on your own beacon. As a defender, it's going to feel much more like you're fighting on home turf rather than at a disadvantage. It's also going to make it a lot easier to respond to backcaps as you'll already be in the bubble, contesting it. I'm wondering if this might create some sort of psych out situations where backcappers force opponents to use jump home, which would be pretty cool. Jump points in the home bases are now in turret range. That's really nice, as it means anyone attacking your base is guaranteed to take at least some fire. No more jumping in and picking turrets at range. It also means that backcappers are guaranteed to take at least some damage unless they take the time to relocate before jumping, buying the defenders time to respond. I should probably stress at this point I am an avid backcapper. I thoroughly enjoy it, the high octane, the knife's edge, but I'm all up for making it a little more challenging. I've made a number of suggestions for this one in the past. The sensor arrays are no longer destroyable. This is potentially double-edged, depending on the FOB jump land points. The old bug that would let you see where a ship landed after jumping, which I thought was intentional to be fair, and quite liked, should now be gone, so having the sensor arrays indestructible won't make much difference to backcappers leaving your home base. It will however make it trickier to do sneaky backcaps. On the flip side though, it'll also make it a lot easier to feint your opponents into thinking you're backcapping. More mind games, more mechanics. This is good. It should also add a whole new level to flipping gamma, which is the name I give to the act of dragging enemy ships out of gamma before jumping in. The positives out of the non-destructible sensor arrays is massive though. Ever found yourself in a situation where you have a team who presumably don't have great map awareness and jump in on an enemy held FOB one by one and get annihilated by 4 guys? Well, that shouldn't happen anymore, as you can now see who's camping where. It also means the aggressors need to spread out a little more so that they don't fail to cover a jump spot and let a runner through. I do hope the sensor jammer on the destroyer jams the sensors, but without letting your enemy know it's jammed. Picture this, if you will. It's pre-gamma, your destroyer's sat at your FOB, there's an equalizer halfway down the lane, he pops the jammer and jumps to gamma, the equalizer boosts, before the enemy team realises anything, there's an equalizer capping the FOB. Now that's some sexy ship synergy right there. How about those sexy mining ships? Oh yes, bit of a random dynamic environmental interaction for the win. Mining ship resources will be nice for those times you're stuck in a lane waiting, or if you're on the back foot with very little mind control and need to grab a little resource. I don't think they'll be game breaking, but they may alleviate some pressure when you're fighting a little behind and can't push out. I think they're going to be difficult to balance though. If the resource provided is either not going to make any difference, or if it's set a little too high, it will potentially be game breaking, especially given some ships will farm them much more effectively. That's all I'm going to say on that one though until we see it actually in motion. I'm going to reserve judgment on that and see how it goes. As a side note, I would like more targeting buttons to separate target selection. One for enemy, one for friendly support ships like fighters and drones, and one for enemy support ships. That would make targeting so much easier in clusterfucks. And whilst we're also at it, I would also like to make auto-target toggleable. Lanes are smaller, yes, effectively, due to the mines being closer to each other. The overall spacing of the environment appears to be largely the same, so there's still plenty of space to dance around in. The ceiling's also been lowered, which will make it harder for top and bottom feeders. It's a shame the ceiling has to be lowered to counter this, but it's a welcome relief. Snipers will also feel the pressure against anti-sniper compositions, but I think they'll largely be unaffected by those slow, heavier comps. It just means you have to relocate a little quicker. I think the new home base jump points are going to have a far greater impact on snipers though. No more jumping in and lingering at the back. It looks like they are going to be right in the thick of the fight, meaning little more consideration for jump placement when jumping in. I like the new ship status HUD. I've been asking for stuff like this for ages. I mean, like over 12 months ages. Don't get me wrong, the flames to denote broken armor are nice, but I like my information clean and concise, especially being able to tell when my broken armor is coming back online. Now all I need is the enemy ship status and I'm set. Labels on the stations only appear to be for starters, which is good, as it would drive me absolutely batty, but it also makes it a lot easier for new players to get used to the game mechanics, which is nice, hopefully helping with that retention. I really don't like HUD notifications for ship direction. This feels like an indirect nerf to blinkers, as they are realistically the only ships that are going to disengage quickly enough to cause confusion or the need for this kind of giant arrow directing you towards them. But hey, we've got to take the rough with the smooth, right? And I foresee me having to adapt my blink disengages a little more. There's a lot of concern about the new map changes making lighter ships more viable than heavies. Personally, I don't see it. Sure, it's going to be easier for blinkers to get from cover to cover, and I'm expecting the Enforcer range boost nerf in the not too distant future, but let's face it, hunters would still get from first mine to mid mine long before a heavy gets there, regardless of map size. Also, think of all those times you've been trucking down a lane with nothing to do. These changes appear to be designed to remove that, which isn't a bad thing in my book, not a bad thing at all. Something I'm guessing a number of people have probably also overlooked, this is going to make Fractured Space more action-packed and far more fun to comment over. I can't wait personally to try it out. It should also be a lot more interesting and entertaining for the viewers. I don't think the lane structure changes are going to make heavies any less of a valid choice, as I was saying. Between the passive buff with Jump Home now placing you in the bubble, combined with sitting a heavy on an FOB being the most effective way to stop a back cap, not to mention they're still going to be needed in Gamma. If anything, although the shorter lanes will mean captains will need to be sharper reacting in heavier ships, especially slow ones like the Destroyer and the Gladiator, at least they now won't have to plan their movements as far in advance, just to truck down a lane for 2 minutes and then immediately jump home to respond to a push. Shorter lanes also mean the return of Zarek Matter. For those who aren't familiar with Zarek Matter, it was an agility composition from the early days of Frac. Focusing around hunters, enforcers and distros, Zarek Matter basically suffers greatly in the current meta as it's designed for complete early game domination. If you haven't won or got a 2-level lead by Gamma 3, then you're going home with a loss. There's nothing you can do about it. These map changes should at least bring that back a little bit. I'm not entirely sure as to what degree yet. I'm interested to try it out. And being as I'm a massive fan of the Zarek Matter, I'm quite happy to see a resurgence. I'm not overly keen with the new mine placement. It really feels like it sacrifices one of the unique dynamic edges you can get with a 3-dimensional space game. But at the same time, given the competitive nature of the game, balance comes before aesthetics. Just look at the giant green beams of life from the healers. I'm not looking forward to having to relearn blink distances, seeing as everything looks mostly the same, just closer together. It's going to throw me off for at least a few matches, that's guaranteed. But hey, it's worth a laugh. Random side suggestion, nothing to do with Phase 3 at all. This one goes out to Operator, as he brought this up in my channel on Twitch, and I think it's absolutely genius and it should be mentioned. The crux of it, though I may get him in to cover it in greater detail in a special video, is the players who have the gamma buff give you a greater resource reward when you kill them, meaning players with gamma will have to actually play more cautiously and they can't just throw their faces at a wall. There's more to it than that, but I'm trying to keep this video short and sweet and try not to drag it out for too long. General overview, the changes have largely been done to increase the pace of the matches. I don't mind this, slow and lumbering is cool, but I also like high octane. Just look at the ships I prefer to play. Balance is most definitely going to be a little rough for a while, but I would presume ECG are prepared for this. It isn't their first rodeo. I'm going to keep the faith on this one and give them the benefit of the doubt and see how it plays out in the next few weeks. On a final note, there's a frontline tournament, by the way, being hosted by yours truly on the 25th, starting at 1900 GMT. Come take a look. It's going to be fun. I suspect this may be subject to change, though, if Phase 3 happens to hit before Saturday. But I don't know. I'm merely hosting, not doing the arranging. So this brings us to the end. I've tried to condense this as much as possible, as it is quite a large topic. I will most definitely be coming back to it in the not too distant future. The astute amongst you may have noticed that I haven't covered implants and the due implant changes and tweaks and rebalancing. That's going to be in a video of its own. It's the same reason I've not yet done an implant guide, because it's still so up in the air and it's so subject to change that anything I make is going to be quickly out of date. I'll give that its own dedicated video in the not too distant future. Now, if you've enjoyed this, don't forget to massage that like button and subscribe if you're new around here for more stuff like this. That's if you haven't already. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts as always, so hit me up in the comments. And until next time, stay beautiful, people.